Hey, I did it again. I got another rose bubble tip anemone from my good friend Alex. As you know, my friend Alex has a whole tank full of rose bubble tip anemone that would not stop reproducing. So every single time I need a new bubble tip anemone, usually I hit him up. So here it is. We got another one for the 135-gallon tank. The tricky part about bubble tip anemone is is to find a spot that it likes and does not move around too much. So with all these years of bubble tip anemone keeping under my belt, let me see if I can hit close to the mark and find a spot where it's happy. The rose bubble tip anemone is one of the more common morph. However, this strand has been doing really well for me. The reason I call this the same strand is because me and Alex, at least like 10 plus years ago, actually bought 2 rose bubble tip anemone from the same person from our Reef Club. If I remember properly, I think it's from the member flower seller of Wames that a bunch of these rose bubble tip anemone came from. It's just really healthy, really prolific, and really hardy, and the color is fantastic, especially if you give them the proper environment. So in terms of rose bubble tip anemone, especially healthy ones like this, they really like to sink their foot into a crevice and kind of stretch your body out, like downwards and out. So I think this little crack right here may be ideal in terms of, oh man, look at how sticky this is. It's already stuck to my hand. This is crazy, look at this. All right, so this guy obviously wants to stick onto something. So let's try here. And what I like to, I'm gonna move the, don't worry, I'm gonna move the GSP. So what I like to do is kind of just like gently hold the bubble tip anemone in place for maybe like 20 seconds, almost like you're setting something for super glue. And then if the bubble tip anemone is really healthy like this one is, usually it's enough time for him to kind of dig his foot. In fact, it's done already. So I just move those guys out of the way a little bit just so that you got a little room to expand if it wants. Yeah, I think this one is fine right here. The foot is holding strong, which is good. I think the flow is okay. However, I don't think you'll like the fact that the crevice that I kind of put it in is really shallow. I did that because I feel like it's not going to be satisfied with the first place that I put him at. My guess is that it's going to come up here and kind of reach in really deep, and it probably will settle that for a little bit. I feel that in the next day or two, it's going to wander around the island, and most likely it's going to end up here, where it's going to dig its foot a little bit deeper and reach out. But honestly, I think it's going to try to reach for a light a little bit more, so at some point it may detach. If I have to pick a spot for the rose bubble tip anemone, I feel like it may like this crevice right here, or maybe that crevice in the back. Most likely like somewhere around here, I think it'll probably like. I thought about putting him right there, but at the moment that rock is kind of like a boulder, there's nothing for him to kind of like bury his foot into, which is kind of like, I could potentially add a piece of rock and just kind of like epoxy in place. I could, but we'll see. Ideally, he'll kind of stay out here, out of the way, because again, anemone is gonna sting all the different corals. So if I place him right there, and it's gonna get big, it's gonna really limit whatever corals I can have in that part of the tank. So in the best case scenario, it's gonna like this spot right here. In order to really convince him to stay here, depending on how it behaves here, I may need to build up this rock structure just a little bit more so that it can be a little bit more comfortable. So far, health-wise, no problem. It's stuck onto the rock like within 10 seconds. And dude, look at the coloration. And that's why I really like this strand of bubble tip anemone. It's a really nice bright red. And look at all these fish just kind of coming over. No, I'm not feeding you guys, and you guys better stay clear of the bubble tip anemone. I am curious how long it's gonna take these clownfish to start going in, because in the 45-gallon tank, I waited 1 year for the pair of clownfish to start going into the rose bubble tip anemone. Hopefully it kind of recognized the sense, chemical signature. I don't know what they look for, but they are the same strands. Hopefully it's not too big of a difference for them, and they will be able to kind of like hold me up in there soon. That's kind of one of the big reasons why I got an anemone, because I feel like the clownfish, it would be nice for them to have an anemone again. All right guys, now it's the next morning. We're gonna do this together. We're gonna see if the anemone is still in place. Crossing my fingers. I do not see him. That's not good. Next thing we'll check is the pump. Nope, no anemone there, no anemone there. All right, this is weird actually. Let's see, sorry guys, I'm kind of like waking him up. What? It's the other side? Dude, that's weird. That's my macroalgae. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Man, phew. Alright, so it looks like it stayed on the rock. It crawled from up here to underneath it, and my guess is that maybe it's gonna pop his tentacle out this direction, right behind the oyster. That would be cool too. That would be a cool spot if it decided to stay there. Like I mentioned, they like to kind of hang upside down. I'm not sure if it's moving or if it's trying to find a good spot.
1 week later.
Alright, Reefers, it has been about a week and a half since we added the rose bubble tip anemone, and it has adjusted well. Let me show you his track. So we entered the tank at that rock right there. So it kind of ducked underneath the cave in the next couple of days and pop out from here, and from there it kind of walk across the island to the other side to where it is right now. So right there is where it has stayed for the last couple of days, and hopefully it's gonna stay on this piece of island. That'll be ideal. But the fact that it's parked here right underneath the light tells me that maybe it's searching for a little bit more light, so it could keep moving. It's hard to say with bubble tip anemone. Basically, I try my best to place it wherever I think it's happy, but obviously I am absolutely not a bubble tip anemone whisperer that I thought I was, because it obviously moved. Since we're looking at the tank, let me talk about the fish really quickly. The fish has been really healthy, especially this 2-pound rabbitfish. Just look at how the color developed in the last 3 or 4 weeks. The blue has really set in, and it's just turning out to be a gorgeous fish. Unfortunately, he has not started picking at the bubble algae yet, and that was the main reason I got him. He has, however, picked at the plating sponge. That's this guy right here, who is all skeleton right now. I got another piece right there. That used to be a full sponge right there, but he picked it clean. And also the red macroalgae, I got 2 types. I got dragon breath, and also I got the spiny ones. That's kind of in the back. So this plug has some of the dragon breath on there. So he picked those clean as well. I've cut back on nori feedings. Actually, I did not put any noris in, hoping that it will turn the rabbitfish onto the bubble algae, which is, once again, the food comeback and more. So that did not work out, and as I'm waiting for the rabbitfish to kind of get turned onto the bubble algae, I'm starting to think next step. Just in case the rabbitfish does not work out, I am thinking about dosing vibrants, but we'll see how that goes. All right, guys, this video, at least livestock, is mainly going to be about the rose bubble tip anemone, so we're going to cap it right here. Next, let's talk about something that I've been looking forward to, and that is the Hanna Nitrate Checker that finally came out. I got my hands on one, and let's check it out. Hey, what's up, Reefers? Today's video is going to be interesting. In my hand, I have the latest Hanna Low Range Nitrate Checker. Now, nitrate test is one of the tests that I hate the most. There's no better way to put it. Main reason is because it takes a long time. Up to this point, I've tried 3 different types of nitrate tester. Number 1 is the API. I think a lot of people have tried API. I think I got the API Master Kit, where it contains a bunch of different test kits. Honestly, it's not the best or most accurate. Since then, I've moved on to the Red Sea Nitrate Pro. Also not my favorite because it takes a long time. If I remember right, it takes like almost 20 minutes to get the results, so I hardly ever use it these days. These days, my go-to has been NIOS Nitrate Test. This do takes a long time, probably like about 10 minutes to get results because you have to wait after certain steps, but so far, this has been my go-to because it was the best option. The 2 knocks I have against the NIOS is number 1, of course, the time. Even though it's significantly less than the Red Sea version, it still takes a bit of time for the result to come in. And the second knock I have against the NIOS test kit, as well as a lot of other test kits on the market, is I have to be able to distinguish between different color, different shades. And to be honest, most of the time, it's kind of like a best guess, so this has a nice balance. Enters Hanna Nitrate Checker. So if you guys have been following the channel, you know that I'm a big fan of Hanna. In my humble opinion, I believe that Hanna has knocked the phosphate, alkalinity, and salinity checking outside the ballpark. Those 3 checkers are fantastic, really easy to use, and accurate. Where they fell a little bit flat, in my opinion, is the calcium checker. There was a little room for user error before they replace the sample picker with this more accurate version. But the main drawback for the calcium checker is that it is cumbersome. It does have multiple steps. Although in my opinion, it has been accurate, but because of the multiple steps, I found myself not testing for calcium as much. And that, my friend, brings us back to the Hanna Nitrate Checker. I want to preface this by saying that I have a good relationship with Hanna, but I will not be pulling any punches because when I opened this up, I looked at it, I just shut it down. Guys, You know me, you know I shy away from complicated things. I like things simple. This looks complicated. I got my coffee. I'm ready. Let's try it out, and I'm gonna let you know my experience and what my thoughts is after the first use. And you can already hear the stress in my voice. As I fudge it up, as you can see, I got a little puddle on the side. What ended up happening is that as I was pushing the solution through the microfilter, some water started coming out on the side. My best guess is that maybe I did not seat the filter pad or filter paper properly, so it's not perfectly centered and two pieces did not screw together like watertight. So that's why some solution came out the side. Finish it anyways. I do not have a full 10 milliliter. I was hoping that maybe somehow it'll be more than 10. I have some to spare, but I do not have exactly 10. So that means that I have to restart the whole process again. This is going much faster than I was expecting. I was expecting a pain in the butt, but for the most part, it's kind of like measure, dump, and it's pretty straightforward so far. So I have one round of practice. Let's do this again. One interesting thing to note is that there are some of these like gray residue from the filter pad or from the filtered solution that I cannot really rinse out. I may have to go in there and do something to pick it. I'm not sure if it matters. Maybe just discoloration. Actually, no, I think it is kind of jamming up. So I need some way to clean those little grits right there. Again, I'm not sure how important this is. I feel like it should be okay because there's plenty of space for the solution to pass through. But I just want to make a point of that.
One pair of pants later.
All right, so there we go again. No leaks. It was user error, totally user error. My fault. It was on me. I probably did not screw them tight enough. The paper was not seated properly. Here's the elixir right here. This is the magic potion per se, but I caught a whiff of something here. Oh, dude. Sniff test. Oh boy, I can't even say sniff test. Oh, sniff test right here. This actually. This smells exactly like what you would use when you dye your hair. Ammonia. I think this is ammonia. This looks familiar. After adding the second powder reagent, we actually get a shade of pink. Regardless of what color that vial is, we're not doing that manually this time. So let's go ahead and put in a checker and then we're gonna start the timer. I'm gonna press and hold, and this is the part that I'm not crazy about because 8 minutes. We have to wait 8 minutes for the results. But the good thing is that we have a lot of parts to clean, so we'll be occupied. So one thing I really dislike about one of the previous checkers, I don't remember which one exactly, but is that they turn off the results so quickly. So from what I read from the instruction, is that after it gives the reading, this will actually stay on for 10 minutes with the result showing. Thank goodness. All right guys, moment of truth. 0.21. ppm. Really cool to see this actually. It's weird. I didn't think it's a big deal, but to get an accurate actual reading like this of the nitrate, it's interesting. So after using it 1.5 times, here's my conclusion. I love Hanna's, but there's no getting around it. The process sucks. It may be necessary, but it's pretty cumbersome. In terms of total time spent to get the results, is somewhat on par with the other test kit I use, which is Niles. However, there are more steps here than the other test kit because for the other test kits, most of the time I'm just kind of shaking the valve for like 2 minutes, etc, etc. But for the Hanna checker, there are multiple steps, which means it opens up to user error. Like I showed a little bit earlier, I kind of fudged up the filter and that was on me. The process is not the shortest or the most user-friendly, but seeing actual results of 2 decimal points, that's pretty cool. Of course, you can argue whether this result is actually accurate or not. Honestly, nobody knows until we do like a lab test. But this is good. So now this becomes a question of accuracy versus convenience. Personally, I feel like for regular hobbyists like myself, who just want to make sure that nitrate is not bottoming out to 0 or the nitrate is not like skyrocketing where we know something is wrong, the Niles or one of the other test kit that does things a little bit quicker would be perfectly fine. I feel like one of the other test kit on the market, for example, the Niles that I've been using, it's probably the one I will be reaching for because I don't need precise values like this, like 0.21. Great to know, but in the grand scheme of things, in terms of my reef keeping, which is kind of like a broad stroke, it's not
is not necessary. Even though the total time needed for both tests is somewhat comparable, the Nios just seems like a little bit less headache. Now, I've not used the Celifert. I know that one is also popular, so I cannot really comment on the Celifert nitrate test, but the Nios has been my go-to, and now we got the Hanna Checker. However, where the Hanna Checker really excel is that the accuracy, especially for people who may have trouble identifying different color. For example, Nios is shade of orange, and I believe some of the other test kit may be shades of pink, especially if you have issue identifying different colors. So seeing actual number like this is fantastic. Also, in terms of accuracy, I feel like seeing 0.21, again, this kind of like just amazing. But going back to what I'm saying, I feel like we're kind of rating these kind of test kits on a scale of accuracy versus convenience. I feel like the nitrate test kit from Hanna really goes up the scale in accuracy, but in terms of convenience, really went down the other way as well. Kind of like the calcium test kits. When I think of Hanna checkers, I think accuracy and also convenience, like the alkalinity checker. That's like bar 1 A+. I don't think anybody can argue that Hanna alkalinity checker is not good. It's fantastic. Really easy to do, really accurate. So maybe we're spoiled by the alkalinity checker, phosphate checker, or the salinity checker, which is so easy to perform. These, in terms of procedures and equipments, they feel lab grade, they feel like scientific equipment. However, in exchange, we kind of need to do multiple steps, which I'm not crazy about. So personally, would I be using this? I feel like I will still be reaching for my Nios nitrate checker most of the time, but maybe every month and a half, I may pull out the nitrate checker to kind of get a more precise value so I know exactly where the tank is. In terms of actual recommendation for hobbyists, I feel like this is really up to you. If you're the more precise kind of guy, or maybe you're more advanced, you really want to dial in the exact nitrate number, hey, maybe this is for you. Or if you have some problem with like identify different color from the nitrate test kit, this is definitely for you. But for hobbyists that's not as advanced, Nios or one of the other test kits that just do like color matching, that give you kind of like a broad stroke between like 0 to 5 ppm, like 5 to 10 ppm, is good enough in terms of the accuracy and convenience scale. So that is kind of like my first impression of the Hanna Nitrate Checker. Really accurate, but really not convenient. Now, whether this is for you is up to how precise you need your reading to be and how much you enjoy doing water tests. Hope this was helpful. If you have a nitrate checker from Hanna, let me know what you think in the comment below. The more data point we got, the better, especially since this is a new checker out on the market. If my roll sculpted anemone is a little bit larger, I may just drop in an anemone